This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Our true nature can't be described. It is simply present here, now. That very simple and normal sense of presence is who we really are. It is our true nature. Stillness, spaciousness, the sense of presence, the sense of existence. They are all intangible words because our being can't be described. Being simply is. Being is our true nature. Valeria interviews Julie Cloutier. She is a certified Deep Transformational Coach. She experienced a gradual awakening followed by a full realization of our true infinite nature in 2021, and since then has moved towards an interest in the transformation from within and the positive impact that this can have on each of us and the world we currently are living in. She is available for one-on-one sessions to support anyone hoping to recognize their true nature and integrate that realization of being into their human life. She also is offering online courses for awakening emotional intelligence and stabilizing anyone that had an awakening or self-realization by knowing the 5 koshas, 5 body sheets. She is qualified to facilitate self-inquiry, which enables her client to process difficult emotions through the heart alchemy, which then remove blocks to resting in a natural state of effortless being. Meet Julie at truthbakery.com. Here is the interview with Julie Cloutier.
In your own words, who is Julie Cloutier?
Wow, that's a big question to start with. So, my character has always been inclined to feel joy. That's the early memory that I have is to be in awe of existence. Just the moon and the cows and the magical experience of life was very alive in my experience, and there are many memories of that. So after my early years, like everyone else, there was just a human experience and doing and having to do things and embarking on an adventure of doing until I found the end of the road in that. I was doing and trying to achieve, and always happiness was evading. I was in the idea that I would find it if I did more of this or more of that, or if I obtained more of this and more of that. And at some point, it got to be seen as an illusion, that it would never be attained. And there was great despair, and hopelessness in that realization. Before, just before there was the realization that the peace of being is available when we stop searching for it, when we stop searching for it in things, in achievement, in relationship. It's already here. And then these things, these achievements, and all the people in my life are still there, and I can do things still, but knowing that the happiness is here. So it was, in my life, it was a return to that feeling of being held knowing that life is infinite potential, infinite potentiality itself, and that we are allowed to live in joy and participate from inspiration and creativity. So in a short little story, it seems it might end how it started.
Yes, right. It's never linear, right, Julie? Yeah.
No, it's never linear, but I spent a long time in trying to find how to be happy and trying to find what would bring me happiness outside. And then I realized it's possible to see that it's here already, that it doesn't have to be found. And then life goes on as normal.
Yes, but with this beautiful and deep realization, right?
Yes, it's supportive to navigate the human experience.
Right. With that in mind, we talked off record briefly about the same topic on how to kind of navigate this shared reality after we realize this truth that happiness and happiness, peace, and all that is not even something that we can find. It's something that we realize. It's all about realizing that's already here. It's not really looking for it.
Yes.
We talked about humans who are still living in this different reality of objects, always trying to be satisfied, to get fulfillment from things out there. And then you said something that it's still here with me about being whatever we are for the simple reason that it can be, in a way, paraphrasing you. But it's almost like the way you said it, it comes to me as almost the enjoyment of separation as well, almost like having fun with it, with ignorance, which is basically ignoring what's the underlying reality, the absolute reality, for that reason itself. And I heard that before in a funny way. Somebody said, a spiritual teacher said, yeah, people love to complain. But look how the phrase love to complain, it's almost like they're complaining, but they love to. So they continue on that path. So talk to me about how to interact with our shared reality without trying to take that away from those who are still living such a way, searching for happiness out there.
Yes, it's a delicate line. It's a delicate fine line that we have to learn in ourselves. If I speak for myself, when there was this realization that I live by contrast to our nature. If I go in the duality experience of feeling separate and having to find things, it's a contrast to our nature of peace. Our natural state, the discovery that the natural state of being is effortless being, is just being here with what is arising. Then there was a need to tell that came, like to tell everyone. It's so amazing, this discovery, that I wanted to bring everyone in it. But when I was doing that, I could see that I was creating suffering, because I could see that if the other person doesn't know this, when I'm saying that, it feels as if I was negating their experience. And I realized that this wasn't helping, that I had to go there alone, that I couldn't bring everyone in it with me. And so that was it lasted for a few months, this place where I was feeling I was going in it alone. And then as this was let go, this need to change the experience for other being, which are also infinite being, they are allowed to have their experience exactly as it is showing up for them. As I could let go of that, then there was true non-separation, because then there is listening without without needing to change anything. And that was more efficient than what I would say the mind was proposing that I should do. So I started to be more and listen more. And in that, there was true non-separation, to be together in the moment exactly as we are.
Wow. Yes. Yes, a billion times to that truth of just being with what is present, right? So, with that in mind, Julie, talk to me about the difference between mind and awareness and presence.
Yes. Awareness presence is here before we engage the mind about what is here. In my direct experience, and it's quite simple, in fact, and we tend to make it complicated with words. But for me, awareness is just knowing. It's just this knowing of existing, and in that knowing, there is no opinion. Awareness, if I was to put word on it, is it doesn't have opinion. It's already non-dual. It's just being, just aware. It's always here in the moment. We're never aware tomorrow or yesterday, so we will never find it at another time. So it's always in the present. It's never before or later. And it never goes away. If I ask myself, is there awareness? Am I aware? There is awareness always. It's always here. It never leaves. It may be overlooked because we are habitually in our mind. And the difference with the mind is never now. It's always before. Something happened before and something may happen later. So when we are in the time and space arises with the mind, there is somewhere to go, something to get, something to understand at some point, something to resolve. It's never now. It's always in the future or the past. Something happened before. And because of that, there's maybe something else that will happen. So it's also the line of because. There is a timeline to things with the mind that is not there when we are just present being. And we have access to both. It's just that most of us are conditioned to live a lot in the mind, in this impression that we are here to solve things. And of course, we can still solve things by being. There is more clarity when things need to be solved. So I would say that would be the difference between awareness and the mental realm.
They are not separate. It's just another level of reality, right? Relative reality.
Yes. It's when I bring this little analogy that I heard before, it's quite simple that our awareness, our capacity to focus the lens of awareness on something, it's still our awareness, but there is it's an impression of, if you compare to a camera lens, it feels like when there is a focus on something, there's the focus of awareness on things. And then there's a zooming out of the lens, as if we're looking at a landscape, but we're not focusing on anything in particular, just being. So it's not separate and it's not wrong. It's really useful to access the mind to be efficient and do our task. But the mind doesn't have to define who we are.
Right. Yeah. In a way, it's a shift of inattention, just looking,
Yes.
not even perspective, but perception, attention. Yes, I feel that very much. And it seems like the more things have to do with the body-mind that requires those two levels of reality, then the more awareness focuses on what needs to be done. And then uses the tools, of course, body-mind to do it. So I'm just wondering if it helps to try to do less with the body-mind. Would that help actually in developing or establishing, as you say. I love the way you say that too. It's one of your courses. I love the name. Let's see. Stabilize Awakening. So in helping to stabilize this feeling, this sense of awakening, would you suggest doing less in a sense of, or even looking for it in a sense of making an effort to do less with the body-mind tools?
Not exactly. I would say one of the practice that is really, really supportive is to ask ourselves, is there awareness? Am I aware? Multiple times a day, so that we start to, it's weird to say, but we start to practice being effortlessly present. So it's not about doing less, but it's about being effortlessly present while doing. Because the mind may attribute some kind of concept about effortless being as if we're not going to do anything. But on the contrary, as we are more present, more gets done with less effort. Because there is less of a judgment about what's being done and how it's being done. So things take shape pretty quickly when you lose the judgment about how it's done, how it should be, and you lose the authorship of it. So sometimes we may want to create an online course, for example, and it's never good enough when we refer to the mind. But when we are effortlessly being, it may flow out of us as a creative energy, and it may take half a day instead of 2 months. And then it's already taking shape and people are already joining, and because there is less of the block of the mind that I should be better, I should do better, maybe it's not good enough. As that belief is lost, there is more creativity. So in reality, there may be more doing with less effort and more joy of doing. So practicing being here effortlessly would be the practice. So it's not to do less, because sometimes it's a break for people towards awakening, because there's a belief or an idea that I will not be doing anything, or I will not have friends, or my life will derail.
Yeah. Yes.
But on the contrary, your life will flourish.
Yes. That's a beautiful message for those who are listening, who are contemplating the beautiful realm of knowledge called non-duality, or being touching with our true nature. Because there's a misunderstanding in that sector. There was one of mine too, misunderstandings.
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot more joy, as you call it, but it's not, I wouldn't even call it that. It's just a label anyway. But there's more, there's a response from the body mind that it's timeless. That's what it is. It feels like, like when we finished, every time I finish a conversation talking to anybody here, that's what it feels like. Like, it's almost like it never happened, although it did happen. So I have that. The memories are still there, dancing around there, but they're in a very, it's this in light way. It's very playful. It's light. There's nothing holding on to what was learned or listened to. It's something like that. It feels really good.
Yes, excellent. Yes, it's yes, I can relate to that. It's more light. The weight of the line or the storyline, the weight is not carried, as every moment is spontaneous.
Right. Yes, right. It's beautiful. I mean, and I wish, that's the thing also. Something in me, obviously the mind, is trying to hold on to that and trying to replicate that.
Yes.
With everything, and it doesn't work for many other experiences with other people. It doesn't work. And then that's where I guess we can talk about something that I read on one of the course materials that you sent me. Is called The Awakening Emotional Intelligence and Dissolving Emotional Suffering Through the Heart Alchemy. That caught my attention because that's what I feel. The body-mind complex, it feels kind of the triggers, everything that you talk about here, bringing you triggered. You have modules, you have many of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have them here, the titles. And then you talk about how to work with bringing the trigger in awareness. So emotions and all that. So is this what do you call all of this work, would you say? Because now it feels like we have actually realized that there is more than just the mind. So we are in this space that's spaceless, and that is, healing is not needed. Obviously, it's freedom, it's fulfillment itself.
Yes.
And then for me, it made the healing experience much more fun too, and more curious for the mind, and less, let's say, dark and like,
yes.
I'm trying to find words for it, less heavy, because when I feel the triggers, when, my relationship with my husband, and that's because I see a lot of times my parents in them, and I had a traumatic childhood. And then, of course, I have been deepening my understanding, this realization with the non-dual, which is based on Advaita Vedanta. I'm a student of Vedanta. So it has become a lot more mature, per se, but it's still here. So I wonder if it ever goes away.
In my experience, yes.
Yeah.
But I can still, it's as if I'm not drawn into it. But I can see, like, in this morning, I had this experience where there was this arising of the contraction and a feeling of defending something, and I just saw it, and it wasn't hard to just let it go. I don't wish to experience that. Thank you. I'm already just okay being here. And I suppose it's from an authentic meeting ourselves authentically, because that cannot be forced. So I feel it comes with being open awareness to feel. That was my way. It's not that it's the right path or anything, because there are many, many different paths. My path was to sit with the discomfort and to be that presence to that discomfort, so that it doesn't feel alone. And it doesn't have to find the resolution outside. So the awakening of the emotional intelligence, sometimes with realization, there is a realignment of the emotional body and the mental body. And the mental body and the emotional body loves to rest too. But at first, what's in the way of happiness will arise in consciousness to be seen. And it was my experience that it had to be seen. And with seeing, it was leaving. Sometimes I say they come to say goodbye.
Yes, I love that. Yes.
And it's not done from a heavy sense of having to heal, because our nature doesn't need healing. So it's done from a sense of being in our nature, presence to these energy that are more dense, that are inviting us in the sense of separation and the fear. Because sometimes the fear, when we start to live closer to our true nature, we'll start to move more and more from intuition. And there may be some fear that needs to be just acknowledged or seen, that what will happen to me if I move from intuition? Will I survive? How will I be in the world? And all these thoughts, it's okay to look at them and not deny them or push them away. It's really to be open and curious toward the mental body and the emotional body, so that this awakening is embodied. It's not only realized from the mind, but also lived in the body.
Yes. Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. It resonates true. And I talked to somebody else. He was he's a Hindu monk we actually will meet again. But he talked a lot about that. He was talking about enlightenment and how it's the misconceptions that by understanding, realizing, having this knowledge, this spiritual knowledge, it will change everything. And it doesn't really, unless it is embodied, as you said. Exactly. That's what he said. That was one of the biggest misunderstandings. And it doesn't happen overnight. So there's a lot of practice. So he talked a lot about practices. It's basically what you're doing too. So being let me see your label here. Yeah, Deep Transformational Coach. So being a coach, teaching others how to, basically deepening. I love that word they use, the deep before transformational. So deep transformational. It is deepening the depth of this understanding that will bring the body, mind in alignment. And for me, yeah, it has been, like you said, I love the way you said that, yeah. Saying hello to say goodbye, something like that. That was cute and true. Yeah, it has stayed, comes to awareness because I know it's something that has to, intuitively, I know there's a change that it wants to make, the body, mind needs to make in order to kind of get closer to that inherent happiness that's already here. And then that's blocking it. And then what it does, it shows me, but now it's much easier to see it, feel it, and then just move out of it. I don't stay there for too long. It's kind of transmutes in a way the energy and then becomes lighter again. But it has been happening. Well, I had this realization has been, I would say, 15 years. But it's still like the process is it is a process, I know. But I was just thinking to myself, wow, how long does it take for the body mind to just kind of, But I know it's because probably change that it needs to make the body mind complex, and it's not really, it doesn't feel safe yet to make that change. It feels like that. I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on that?
It feels like a refinement. A constant refinement. And in myself, it feels like knowing our true nature is supporting our human experience. So it's supporting the evolution and the growing of our personality, our character. So it's not an evasion from life, it's an intimacy with life. So as we become more openly present to what the feeling are arising in ourselves and revealing what is the blockage, it's like becoming more and more intimate with life. And that intimacy, it's a paradox, because from one lens there is no movement and there is already full intimacy, and then from this perspective of our human experience, it's the revelation of that in our life. It's the embodiment of that in our life. And that is in the relative time and space. So it's both, it's holding both. That in myself, when there's a movement, the movement can come from mind, from fear, or from intuition, from infinite intelligence. And when there's a movement, I ask myself, what is the best thing that will support the growth of my character here? My personality, my persona, my personality. Will there be growth in that? And if the answer is yes, then I move towards it. So I feel that our nature of awareness, presence, support, having access of knowing our nature, support the growth of our character. So it's not that we're not there anymore, or that we're not participating. On the contrary, we are even participating more in life. That's how I feel that what you're mentioning is that, because on the timeline, these 15 years, there is more and more embodiment or closeness to that.
Yes, I love the words you used, the refinement, intimacy, right? The refinement caught my attention, that word. Like, it does feel like a refinement. But refinement of what? And it feels like it's the communication, the expression of that pain that's within the body mind, kind of expressing that in a transmuted way, which comes initially feels so uncomfortable because it's painful to re-experience whatever it did in the past. So it keeps coming. It's related to trauma. It's trauma informed. So, and then I also see now it's becoming more, the response to it is becoming more refined in a sense of gentler and kinder.
Yes.
But it's still there. It's still responding to it, but in a kinder way. And that I feel that's coming from, the perfume of infinite intelligence, right? My true nature, our true nature.
Yes, yes.
Because kindness, something that has for me has been almost like a mark, has been like this reference to it.
Yes,
like,
I mean, sure, it's
right?
very benign, very open, curious. All of these vibration being is benign. It's not resisting anything.
Yes. Yeah, it's trying to understand, and then perhaps not in an order, but understanding. I see it's taking place, and then trying to move the energies to place to an expression that can benefit this body, mind, and others too, whoever's next to me. So it's just beautiful to observe that, even to put words into it. It's not easy, right, Julie?
Yeah.
I'm like surprised now that I'm able to communicate this. Wow, it's amazing.
It feels like the lightness wants to embody, it wants to shine through, so it moves what's in the way. And that's not comfortable sometimes.
Oh my God. Yes, yeah. And it moves gently, kindly. It's moving that out of the way. That's really something that it caught my attention. Like, how beautiful is this?
Yeah.
It's moving this energy that it's not really pushing away. It's kind of as it moves it transforms it at the same time. It's almost, I don't know, something like that. It's just so beautiful to even to be aware of this movement, which I know we are talking about movement within the relative reality.
Yes, the emotional body also. How I felt it was in my experience is that as these energy were allowed to move instead of staying contracted, because without the support of knowing our true nature, it's a little bit harder to access these emotions because it's lack the support to meet it, the support of presence or knowing presence to meet this energy in the non-dual space of just being here present. The feeling I have is that as the energy are allowed to move, sometimes it may come with painful or not pleasant energy like sadness or anger, irritation to feel this, not really pleasant. But as these energy are moving, there is more flow. So instead of feeling contracted in a sense of separation, because this contraction in the body, in the physical body, in the form of fear or sadness that are not allowed to move, is in the way. And when these energy can just move as a vibration, I'm just speaking about a vibrational energy, it feels like the flow, the life becomes a flow. And we are in that flow, trusting the flow. So there's something there with the movement of vibrational emotion, vibrational energy in the physical body. That's where I point people to feel, to allow themselves to feel. And as we grow our capacity to feel, one extraordinary thing that happens is that we lose the fear of feeling. That's immensely freeing. That's where there is more and more being undisturbed in the peace of being without trying. It's just effortless.
Yes. There, yeah. How many years can I say to that? Yes, my other platform for video podcast interviews is called The Freedom to Feel for a reason, right?
Nice. Wow.
That's the reason why, because I felt that way myself. Like, it is that being spacious enough, which is already is anyway.
Yes.
Realize that we are the spaceless space, infinite space. Just allow everything just to be. And I know there's so much to talk about, but there's something else that came to the mind was free will. What is your understanding of free will? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I see it. I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's just an impression that I have in my discovery in my life. I feel that there are two wills. There is the will of the mind, which is going to be trying to serve me. So there is a what's in it for me and a lot of effort to obtain things. And that's the will of the mind. I'm not saying it's the will of me, because in myself, the realization was that there is no me. there is an experience when I adopt the mind, that I have to find something and I have to achieve, and there is something in it for me. So that to me is not really free will, because it's an operating system under a program that tells my being that I need to, that I need to be in a certain way, that I have to attain things. Even awakening is in that list of things to attain.
Yes,
from the mental body.
Yes.
So that's the will of me. And then there is an access to another will, and in my experience, it feels like it's divine will. And that divine will is devoid of me, is an access to unity consciousness, where we are undivided and available. It's not a search. It's in my life right now. I am available. I am not searching and trying to change people, but I'm available for anyone that feels they may find something. But I don't need people to change. So it's not me that is operating there. It's more the will of our infinite nature, infinite intelligence, infinite love. And it's not own, like I'm not under the impression that I am a good person doing that. I'm just accessing intuition, and to me, intuition is divine will moving us, moving the body mind, moving. So it's something else that takes over you, but it's not dangerous. It's on the contrary, it's way more expensive and loving than the mind realm, where there is a lot of separation and a lot of conflict. So I would say that's my understanding of free will. So I'd say there is no free will, but I'd rather do divine will through intuition than do the mind will and suffer separation or the sense of separation, because the separation it never really occurs. We have the impression of being separate when we are identified with mind or with our thoughts.
Yes. Yeah, and that's an interesting take on. It's almost like making a choice, which my take is a lot more direct, in a sense that we are freedom. So who needs free will when we are already free?
Yes.
We are freedom itself, right?
Yes, life is allowed to unfold from infinite potentiality when the me is not there.
Yes, getting out of the way is great. Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's our will. Maybe that's our only will, to consciously start to know from where we are operating our life. And if we are willing to try and look at what is happening if I don't try to control things, and what is happening if I let life unfold, how does it feel to live in that state of being? And it's amazing when we start to taste it. We we want more of it, and we have to let go of the want. So that's
yes.
to just reside with what is here.
Yeah. Wow. How amazing at this to have this understanding, and the deeper the better, because then in the end it's becoming one with life. And then now we even lose that sense of trying to choose anything, or
Yes.
it's almost like nothing changed really. Like from my experience, nothing really changed, but it just, what changed felt so much more effortless, as you say, more joyful, lighter.
Yes.
Whatever felt like it was changing. It's not. So I think there's something. I know we talked about embodiment before, but it might be just the realization of this spiritual knowledge of being infinite presence, awareness, that already unchains everything in a way that's enough.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychologists, some of them I have interviewed, that they are non-dual psychologists, and that's what they do as a practice. They speak like you, actually, in a way. But some of them agree that it's not enough, the intellectual understanding, which is not really. The intellect is just the part that understands, but it's not really. It is part of the mind, of course. It is a mechanism of the mind. But once we understand, which in Vedanta they say that, some people, they question that. Why do we have to understand? How can we understand our infinite nature with a finite mind? It's just not possible. And then, the answer is that's exactly what is needed, because we need to correct that misunderstanding in the mind that believes that it is finite, but it's not finite either. So that made sense to me. Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's it. It's exactly it. So the understanding, it is the correction, really, because in truth, it's just the illusion that, like you said, that everything, it's separate. There's something separate here. There is something even.
There is something that we can name.
Yeah, right. Which seems like that way, right? Oh, I can name this. Actually, when you really go deep into contemplation and reflection on this non-dual understanding, there's nothing I can label, really. The mind is just
it's okay to label, but it's not.
It loses interest in a way. There's a part of the mind like, oh, okay, what is this? And then looks at things in a lot more subjective way.
Yeah, I often say mine loves to rest too.
Yeah.
It's tiring to think. It's how I came to this understanding. In fact, is that it was feeling hopeless. Like I can't manage this anymore. I don't know how. So it felt like it got to the end of itself.
Yeah, right. You see? Yeah, I think that's one of the practices in Zen Buddhism, right? You meditate until you realize that who is meditating? There's no need for meditation. And then everything ends. There's no meditator.
It was not pleasant when there was this feeling of distress and despair. I can't do this anymore. It felt really disturbing and turbulent. But it's how the light came in here. Sometimes it doesn't have to be this way, and sometimes it is in that way that the light comes in. And I felt like, oh, I can't. Like I surrender everything.
That's wonderful, isn't it? When the mind can come to that conclusion, it is kind of surrender to its own infinity.
Yes, its own limitation.
Yes, right. Yeah, that's it. Like
it's like I heard that before, and I find it's really enlightening. It's bowing down to God, or bowing down to the divine. It relinquishes its power. It says, "Okay, I'm ready to bow down."
Yes, yeah, that has happened to myself, of course, this year, and so many people that I talk to in the non-duality area, or they with this understanding already established, yeah, they talk that way. And the other day I was talking to somebody about this, and what came to me was like a fish trying to live out of the water. That's what really it felt. That was my experience, really trying to live as a fish outside of the water, and really thinking that I could. Oh, it can. It
Yes.
can. Right? I can't live without the water, of course. Yes, not really.
Yeah.
You couldn't. Yeah, you can't. Impossible. So, would you say that this is really the main cause of suffering, of our suffering? Trying to live in
Yes.
the illusion of a separate self.
Yes. The idea that just the idea that we are going somewhere is very pervasive. But if we look at our direct experience, whenever we are somewhere, we are always here, no matter we can name a place that's different, but it's always a direct experience of being here. If we don't name where we are, being is always present. And I feel that the forgetting of that is creating suffering, because there is this all of those need to acquire a lot of things, to possess, to manage the content of our life, to manage our thoughts, even manage our emotion. All of this management of things is depleting us of our alive energy, our creativity, our aliveness. And it's in the way of us being together without judgment, being who we are with our own color, our personality, without trying to change anything. If I meet myself totally and fully, I don't have to change anything in anyone else. I don't need to resolve myself, then I don't need to resolve other people. And from that, there is already more joy and less conflict.
True. Yes. So true. It's ending conflict here. So when we end
Yes.
it inside, it ends outside. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's all a reflection. So we are creating our own suffering, unfortunately. We are building the wall ourselves, and then we feel that we have to cross that wall, but there is no wall.
That's a very good metaphor. Yeah, that's a good one. Building the wall and then believing that's in the way, in our own way.
Yes.
Well, we built it.
And then we're trying to find how to remove it, but we cannot remove it because it doesn't exist in reality. We are creating it out of our belief and thoughts.
Yes. That's amazing. The idea of thoughts too, when I heard this from a spiritual non-dual teacher about that we don't, on free will, I believe he was talking about, yes, that we don't think our thoughts, they just appear. So that's really that's the true experience. They appear, and then it feels like we are engaging with some of them and letting go of the other ones. But in reality, they're just coming and going, and there's just a feeling that something is choosing. But
yes.
there's none of that is really taking place.
Yes, and it feels really true though when it's happening, that I think. But I like how we can start to directly test it in our direct experience. What if I don't adopt this thought? Because thoughts are coming and going, like you said. We never know our next thought. There are effortlessly appearing. They are mostly what we're usually thinking, so they will feel like me because they are our own habitual thought. And they're not our own. When I say our own, it's even an error in language, but they are seemingly the same flavor. They are habitual, like our emotion also are like that. And when we start to just be open to this, maybe if I don't adopt it, what will happen with the conflict that is seemingly starting to take place? Because we're looking for happiness, we're looking for having fulfilling relationship, and we are making the mistake of thinking that we will find it outside. If I find the right person, I will have the right relationship. When we start to decline invitation in our habitual way of thinking, we start to see that our life is transforming without us making any effort.
Yes.
The magic is revealed.
Yes, yes, that is so true. So in a way, it is consciousness that is making itself, it gives itself the choice to realize itself or become aware of itself, and also
Yes.
not to, and choose other things that we call ignorance. But it is a choice that consciousness itself is making, right? Julie feels that way.
It feels like consciousness is revealing itself to itself through a different body mind. It's not like a person that you realize. It's conscious. It's the energy field that's revealing itself. So because we share this energy field, it's a paradox, because I could say for myself, you wake up alone. You don't take anyone in there with you. And at the same time, if I was alone as this person, I couldn't. Like, I needed other people to point to it. So it's through everyone that this is happening, this consciousness revealing itself to itself through more and more people, and that makes it more available to more people at the same time. If we refer to 50 years ago, that was more difficult. Now it's becoming available because there is, maybe there's a possibility to be living without suffering. Just maybe is enough to know that maybe, because most of my life I had the belief that this was not possible, that life was made with suffering, that suffering was part of it.
Right. So that's, wow, I never heard it that way. It resonates true. So yeah, consciousness is revealing itself to itself more and more, especially this time for some reason.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is this concept or this idea of it's possible to enjoy this relative reality without suffering. It is possible.
Yes.
So it's becoming a
It's
possibility.
possible to live without fear.
Yeah.
And I suppose the ride has become very increasingly difficult. So some are rejected because it's hard. In my direct experience, just COVID brought some change and some reflection in how I wish to live this, even just this challenge, this big challenge that we went through as humanity. And I remember asking myself if I wanted to live this in fear or not. And I guess maybe that's the only will we have, is to choose between fear and non-fear. And it's delicate because sometimes we live in circumstances where that's not as available. So it's not a lack of compassion, and it's not the fault of anyone when we find ourselves in difficult circumstance. That maybe it's not that it's not available, because it's true for everyone, and there is no one that has this more than another. There is no hierarchy. But maybe sometimes there are circumstances that are supporting that, and that I take as a grace. That's how I feel, that it was a grace, a blessing. Yes. That keeps myself in humility, that I don't own this.
Yes. But there's no separation anyway, right? Because you are everywhere anyway. So
yes,
you as
both.
Consciousness is everywhere. Yeah, the body mind is here.
Consciousness is everything. Yeah, is all.
That's another question that I usually ask to myself and others about ignorance, and how much of the suffering is caused by ignorance and is not consciousness choosing ignorance just out of playfulness. I know you mentioned that before off record. It resonates true, and I heard that before about freedom itself, expressing itself, exercising itself. So there's no limits anyway. And ignorance, for some people, it feels like fun. I have talked to some people here on the podcast. I remember that really well, and kind of rejecting the idea in the moment. I don't think I told them, but something in me said, no, no, no. I remember some people saying, I love being a human and everything about it. So I would not mind coming back here over and over again to play with it, like in a sense of suffering, going through all this again. And then I remember,
and it will all be fine.
yeah, isn't it funny? And I remember saying to myself, no, I don't want to come back here and go through all the suffering that I went through. No, that doesn't sound like fun to me. But for them, in a way, it was. So we can't really judge, right, Julie? We can't really.
Yeah, and even I can even share a transformation that has happened in myself. As I remember a year ago, I was just wanting this. I was in a state of suffering, and I wanted it to end. And I was like, no, 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 I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back. And I was told by someone, and now it's now true, that even suffering is not feared anymore. At some point, it's like, okay, bring it on. There's an energy that's okay. It's open to all of it. And that person said, it's like you forget how hard it is to suffer, and then at some point you're like, okay, I could do this again. And it's like, I don't know if you had a friend that gave birth to babies, and then they said, oh, no, I'm never gonna do it again.
Yes.
Then a few years later, oh, I'm gonna have another baby. Oh, it's just hormone.
Yes, that's a very good example.
You said you wouldn't do it, Oh, yeah. No, it was just hormone. It wasn't so bad.
Yeah, that's a
so
good
it feels
example.
the same, like it wasn't so bad. I could do it again.
Wow. Interesting. So what's the insight there is that consciousness loves to have fun, right? And ignorance, it is, what can we say? Eating all these foods that they seem to be different, taste differently, although we know they don't. And then you have all these experiences, they all seem to be different too, and the feelings. So yeah, it's existing, isn't it? Because existence itself doesn't do anything. I mean, existence itself is just itself. It doesn't really become anything. But existing seems to be, that's where the fun is at. So that might be it. The human experience might be that experiment of consciousness and having fun with itself.
Yes.
I know we don't like the idea of suffering, but it comes with it, I guess.
Yeah, it comes with it, feeling separate. And I suppose there are many levels to look at it, and from one lens there really is nothing, and then from another lens there is a movement of love. Maybe let's start with that, because the subtle energy are those that are most light: peace, love, joy, and then we get to density as we go into the mental identification. There is more density of energy until apathy, which is really the lack of energy. So it's an energy. To me, it's more of an energy game, and we're playing that game.
Oh, an energy game. That's interesting. Never heard that way. Yeah, that's interesting to hear that. True. I just interviewed somebody about biogeometry, and he talks a lot about that, pendulums, and how the energy of consciousness will kind of show you. You probably have heard that before. So they have this BG3 pendulums that you use to ask questions. So the consciousness really is answering the questions, not really you, not the mind-body, but it's using the body-mind, the pendulum itself, using matter just to move the energies and get answers to whatever we are curious about. So yeah, there's even, so that field, the field of, we know, energy, that's a word that in science has been used a lot. So, right, quantum physics and so many other, I interview so many people here, and even scientists, they talk about energy a lot. Even when they physicists, when they talk about nature, the laws of nature, they speak of energy too. So yes, it feels, of course, I mean, it's undeniable in the dream reality that's moved by its own laws, and that we can call it energy. But there's something that's not an experience, and that's what we have been talking about here, right, Julie? That
Yes.
it's not really, can be experienced.
No.
And that is awareness itself. Presence is just here, but it's not really. It's aware of experience, but it's not experiencing anything.
Yes.
And it feels at times, I have to say, feels like nihilism. It might be like in between, right, Julie, in a way, when you get deep enough into it, between this feeling of I don't know what they call it, eternalism or eternal kind of field, and then you have nihilism too. So the nothing, like you said, in fullness, they're dancing constantly.
Yes, and there's a place where I went into for a few months, about a few years ago, when there was this realization where the mind came. I would say the mind came with me there and said, "Oh, it's meaningless. Nothing means anything." But it's not the idea that nothing means anything. So when the mind is coming into, it's like bringing the absolute in the relative, it doesn't work. So it's not the idea that there is no meaning and purpose and it's really nihilism. It's more beautiful than that. Is the pure emptiness of existence is existing, and there is no purpose other than existing or experiencing existence. It's it's when you start to reveal that I don't have to carry any baggage. I can be in this moment and just be present. There is nothing to find and nothing to search for. The mind, when the mind takes hold of that, it creates something that is really most limited. And we're speaking about being unlimited. And then the most limited idea is that there really is nothing and it's meaningless and it doesn't have any. That's really not what we're speaking about. So I feel that idea sometimes will produce a sense of desperation or that's how I felt for a while when this idea was taking over. There was a sense of sadness and desperation that arose with those vibrations of those thoughts. And we're speaking more about infinite potentiality without limitation. So life is an infinite potentiality. And then when we are open to life unfolding, it's unfold in higher vibration than when we limit it.
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah. That's how I revealed that, because I was in a state of limiting it for a very long time.
Yes,
I was a specialist at doing that. I was really good at doing that.
Yeah, the mind, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just buying into this idea that I really have to defend myself, and I have. Yeah, that created a lot of suffering for a long time. So so it's a lived experience.
Yeah, so now you know.
Not only of expansion, but of contraction as well.
Yes, right. That's a very good kind of reference for those who are listening, because non-duality comes across that way and has been actually taught that way as well by some people, that they're not really, I don't think they are connected to any spiritual ancient tradition of non-duality, or they are, but in a very, I think, superficial way, and they do talk that way, right? That there's nothing, there's nobody here, there's nothing to do.
It will feel very limiting, and sometimes that will bring the mind to a halt, though. So sometimes it serves a purpose, that message, that really there's nothing, and there's no really, really. And then at some point the mind is like, oh, okay, I give up.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And from one lens, we could say that there is some truth in it, in the sense that attributeless being is without attribute. So it always depends how we hear and how it's interpreted or not by the mind, I feel. But the message is really to access expansion, more expansion, not to feel more constricted. So I would say to people, when they listen to things, to refer to their intuition and how their body feel, and how, because the body is an instrument of truth. It's not lying. It's not gonna. It's how I came to this realization. Is there was a sense of relief in the body, a huge relief, and I felt that there was some truth in that, because the body was responding with relief. So intuition is always our natural guidance. So that's why no one can tell us what to do or where to go and what to look for. It's really to attune to intuition, even if the mind says, oh, I'm not too sure about that. If there's an intuition to do something, then it's right for us.
Right. But that's true. That's a beautiful message.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people, they need guidance, and I needed guidance. And you are a guide as a coach, but it's just a guide, right, Julie? It's not really telling others what to do and how to do it, but guiding them. Moving their own energies, guiding them to move, to be realized, to be aware of their own energies, right?
Yes.
That's a beautiful message. So we're almost at the end, and I had so many other points here to talk about. I'll talk forever, because this is, I mean, what's not to love about this conversation? It's right? It's freeing in itself. So I mentioned your course. You have course 1, Stabilize Awakening, and there you talk about the 5 koshas. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. And then you did send me some information about that. And then you have also the course 2, and then it's called The Awakening Emotional Intelligence and Dissolving Emotional Suffering Through the Heart Alchemy. And for both of them, you offer an ebook, and I believe they're free, right, Julie? Those 2 ebooks.
Yes, with the course. Yes,
with the course, right? And it's all available. And you are also a coach, as I mentioned before. Your title is Deep Transformational Coach, and you also have a podcast that I just found out, Self-Realization. Now what? Talk to me for a moment about that. I forgot to ask that question.
Oh, the podcast is really, really small. So it's just started out of enjoyment. Yeah. And I have started meeting with people for whom there was realization and or curiosity, and to have conversation about that. I'd love for the podcast to go towards how to live our human experience with that foundation, how to live from intuition, how to allow more joy, how to function from our infinite nature, which is not personal, and how to trust that. So the podcast is just starting. I've had a few conversations with 3 person already. And I'm open to anyone that wants to have a conversation to write an email. And even if you would like to have a conversation, Valeria, on the podcast with me, I would love to know more about you, and we could just spend some time together there.
Yeah, that'll be fun too. Boy, yeah, I love these conversations, as I said to you before. But because I was trying to make this podcast a non-duality podcast, but then I quickly realized that I was pushing away the human experience, the healing, because my experience has been healing, going through healing, different healing stages to deepen this, along with the realization. So healing played a huge part. And it still does. So I can't really let go of that. The healing, from the traumas in the relative reality. So I can't really let go of that for some reason. I couldn't really, let's say, push away the healing part. So I just brought it together. And every time I host a podcast with psychologists, scientists, I always mention the non-dual realization that I had in my understanding as of now and all that. I always bring that into the conversation somehow. I smuggle the non-dual teachings
But
there.
it's
I
it's
always say
really beautiful, and I hear your intuition guiding you there, and it's a value to healing cannot really be disregard. It has to, like I said before, it's a realization of our non-dual nature that support the growth of our character. And if that growth is denied, then the freedom is not. It's 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 a it's not the same as a lived freedom. So being open to meeting energy and anything that needs to be heard in the presence of being, in our open presence, I find that really beautiful. And I wouldn't want anyone to feel that it's wrong to do that.
Right. Yes, that's it. You inspired me the mind to think about. I think it was a spiritual teacher who said, not knowing that we are free. It's like living. It's like a bird living in a cage that has a door that is open. I'm just like all over the place.
Yes.
Do you understand? So I'm trying to
yes.
remember, how he said it, but right. So we
Yeah.
are free already, but as long as we don't know that, then it's like living, in a cage that is open, but we're just staying there, feeling that.
Staying there, exactly. Yes. That's how it feels. Because as you meet everything, I feel you come to have a true voice. You come to express yourself and not hide in fear of being judged, or because realization, it doesn't mean that there is instant liberation. It's a beautiful realization that then takes you on another route, another
That's for sure.
road. And it doesn't mean that your life crumbles. It doesn't mean that, but it means that there will be things that are revealed still, unless, I don't know, maybe some people, and I've not heard of many, I don't know, maybe for some people everything is just dissolved and there is pure just embodiment. But I don't know, because we are bringing this here in the human dimension, in the body, and the body is an instrument of time and space. It lives in times. It has a memory.
True. Yeah, they are grounded in this reality, right, with its own laws, right? We cannot ignore the laws here. True, but I think there was a teacher you probably heard about, Ramana Maharaji, I think his name was. You probably heard about him. I think he was able to do that. He lost all fear and he was just walking, here with the body mind, like, free of all of this. And almost as if he was not under the laws of time and space. He was just, if the body dissolved, it would be okay. And if it didn't, it's okay too. So it was not really, the mind was not engaged with that anymore. But you couldn't, from what I heard, he was just fully there. If you ask a question, he would answer, of course.
Yes, I heard that even he transmitted through silence very powerfully. Yes. And so I guess it depends, eh?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't happen too often from what I see. Right? We're not able to, it's almost like the stories of so many stories we hear. For most of us, it doesn't happen that way. It might be also because the times that we are living in, with all the technology, right? The influences, like you said, circumstances, so we can't really let the body mind go like that. That would be interesting. Everybody just walking around, just in silence. And that's an interesting vision, but it might be a different reality altogether. Who knows? Another relative reality. But
yes.
Yes.
So, we are living in a in a culture and in a place where we have to function here. We have to go to work, and we have to and it's okay to.
To engage with the structures, right? They're already here, which includes the body mind. That's a big one.
Yeah, and one thing I feel, it's like there is more feminine energy now in this field. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not really good in history about that, but I see a lot of feminine energy and embodiment and self-love, and I love that this is showing up more and more in reality to bring ourselves love. And I'm not saying that it's not in the masculine energy either, but I feel it's a access to intuition and the love, and it's a good balance that I see emerging.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's shifting.
Mm.
Yeah, it's more gentle,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, I'm feeling this within myself. I have been for years now. And I remember having gosh, Julie, I could never stop talking to you. We'll just go here forever. We'll just
Sorry
still,
about that.
yeah,
I have to let you go.
I like, how can we stop this conversation? I can never stop. So yeah, I remember having that vision about almost like a longing for this reality to be more of an engaged one with the feminine energies without having the language to express that back then. It was about
Mm-hmm.
25 years ago. And I remember it was so strong, like, I wish, but the word was really, the feeling was really a longing thing. That was those energies was trying to bring the intuitive aspect of it more to this reality and less of doing just for the sake of doing, the sake of survival. I had seen that enough, and I was like, oh. And then I remember having this vision of one day, and then something said, oh, it will happen. One day, everything will stop. This whole
Wow.
people will stop working, but then you see, I thought naively at that time, I remember thinking, oh, great. So humans will decide to do this spontaneously on their own, just kind of, let's go within and
Wow.
reflect more. But then it took like something like COVID for that to happen. So in a way, it's not really, it's never the way we imagine, because with the
No,
mind,
it's
of
not.
course.
Yes, yeah.
But it happened. I was really surprised when that happened. Was not a surprise to me because I was already expecting
Wow.
that to happen. But it was like, and then there was a rest within myself, like, oh, the longing has been fulfilled. Oh, this is here now. And I never had any problems with the COVID situation. It was actually the opposite. I was a lot more joyful, although a lot of people lost their bodies and we had all this suffering happening. But there was a very strong feeling of peace, just here. And I didn't understand why it was so peaceful in a chaotic state. I was in New York at the time, too. It was just so bad there.
Wow.
But yeah, it was quite the opposite experience I had throughout this whole thing. And I remember having this longing and also the vision that something told me it will happen. And that was 25 years ago. I had forgotten even about that. But then it came back all of a sudden when this happened. Oh, it's here. Great. I mean, great, not in a great way, of course.
Yes,
but,
for sure. Yes.
great
yes.
in the sense of like you
The
said.
stop, something stops in there with the movement. And I can feel that you chose, you didn't chose the invitation into the fear.
Yes, right. It was quite right. It was
And
love.
your experience was
right.
more peaceful than others.
Yes.
Because we always have we have the choice of consent. We are consenting to these invitations, sometimes unconsciously, but when it becomes conscious, it's when there is awakening of consciousness. That, okay,
yes.
I don't have to consent to the invitation into fear.
Yeah. Right. So kind of in the way having those visions, but I have been having visions my entire life.
Oh, wow.
Whatever would happen and then it would happen. It's almost like, you have psychics and you have all these people, mediums and all. I have all those. I mean, it's not me. See, this is available for everyone. As you said, everyone has access to it. When you talk about intuition, everyone can access this spaceless, infinite, spaceless space that's here now. But we are just, for some reason, it's consciousness. I have to go back to it because I can't create separation.
We're distracted.
Yeah.
We're distracted.
Yeah, right.
Because in the mental realm.
Yes, because consciousness is not an object. So we are so, right, so used to navigate this reality with the mind and look for objects for everything, but it's not an object, that reality. So thank you so much again, Julie, for your presence,
Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to meet, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Oh my God, thank you. And before we say goodbye for today, where's the best place to find more information about you?
The website, truthbakery.com.
Yes, and I do have here as a link, and I love the name too, Truth Bakery.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, I was like,
bake your life from your authentic self, from truth.
Yes, how beautiful. I love that. When it's like truth with taste to it. We can, right?
Yes,
it's a delicious truth.
Love. Bliss, love, joy.
Thank you so much again, Julie.
We'll talk soon. Bye for now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Julie Cloutier and her work, please visit truthbakery.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.